On the outskirts of the Denora system lies the scarred and lifeless planet of Safehold. It was here that the Astral Knights chapter made the ultimate sacrifice to halt the onslaught of the Necron world engine, and it is here, in the dead heart of the battle barge Tempestus, that a shrine was raised in their memory. 772 Arbel stone statues stand silent, vigil amongst the ruined flagship, one for each fallen battle brother of the Astral Knights. Beyond the wreckage, a score of living guardians patrol the dusty landscape, their eyes ever alert for scavengers whose presence continues to mar the sacred site. These are Space Marines, battle brothers from a dozen disparate chapters, standing as one out of respect to the fallen. The World Engine's arrival in the Vidar subsector took the Imperium completely by surprise. Even now, it is unknown if the World Engine was a Necron tomb world mobilized by arcane technology, or merely a starship of planetary proportions constructed in the darkness between the stars. By the time the World Engine's gauze projectors had scoured all life from the Argrian worlds of Gaios Prime and Gaios Tertio, all speculation as to its origins was abandoned. Only its demise mattered. The entire Vidar sector fleet and no less than 15 Space Marine task forces, including elements from the Ultramarines, Astral Knights, Invaders, and Aurora chapters, opposed the World Engine as it reaped a bloody harvest for planet after planet. Yet not even the mightiest of mankind's weapons could break the World Engine's shielding. A dozen sorties were launched, 12 attempts to overwhelm the World Engine with sheer valor and firepower, yet all the Imperial fleet had to show for its pains were a string of destroyed and crippled ships and millions of casualties. Worse still, direct assault seemed impossible. Drop pods and boarding torpedoes could not penetrate the World Engine's shields, and teleport beams targeted onto its surface lost all coherency. After 2 full Terminator squads from the Invaders chapters were lost in this manner, further attempts were forbidden. Following the Galax Rift disaster, in which a good third of the Vidar sector fleet had been lost to no avail, Artor Amrad, the master of the Astral Knights chapter, adopted a desperate strategy, foregoing weaponry that had many times proved to be ineffective. Amrad employed the Astral Knights battle barge itself against the World Engine shields. With its engines roaring at full power and its proud adamantium hull shuddering under the impact of incoming fire, the Tempestus forced its way through the World Engine's defense systems. With such momentum behind it, the Tempestus could not hope to avoid a collision with the surface of the World Engine, but such was not Amrad's intent. The moment the battle barge pierced the shields, the Astral Knights had taken to their drop pods. The Tempestus' scored and ravaged form collided with the World Engine in a storm of metal and fire, but the Astral Knights were safely on the surface of the artificial world, continuing the fight with undimmed determination. It is impossible to say how many Necrons dwelt within the armored skin of the World Engine, but their numbers must have reckoned in the tens of thousands. A mere 700 souls, though they were Space Marines all, should have made little account against such odds. Yet Amrad and his battle brothers were determined that their sacrifice would not be in vain. Bereft of hope, the Astral Knights fought without fear, destroying every flux generator, weapon forge, and command node in their path. For 100 hours and more, the Astral Knights wrought havoc. Yet each battle amid the Cyclopean structures that choked the World Engine's surface took its toll in dead and wounded. Some perished buying time so that their brothers might fall back and march to fresh battles. All died on their feet, spitting defiance at the soulless warriors who opposed them. The Astral Knights' final assault consisted only of Amrad and 5 others. Though wounded and weary, they fought their way through the vast tomb complex that housed many of the World Engine's command arrays. His followers dead or dying, Amrad's final act was to detonate the melta-bombs that tore the tomb apart. This last heroic act overwhelmed the World Engine's already overtaxed control nodes and brought not only the shields crashing down, but also silenced many of its weapon systems. The Astral Knights were gone, but by their sacrifice the World Engine was laid bare for the vengeance of mankind. Seeing the foe defenseless, the Imperial fleet attacked with a vengeance and tore the World Engine apart with repeated volleys of cyclonic torpedoes. In the wake of the World Engine's destruction, the Astral Knights were struck from the roster of active Space Marine chapters. The handful of battle brothers who had not been present during the battle against the World Engine were too few to carry the burden of reconstitution. Another chapter, the Sable Swords, was formed to fill the void and took up the stewardship of the all but abandoned Fortress Monastery. Yet the Astral Knights were not forgotten by those who had fought alongside them. As the Adeptus Mechanicus picked over the World Engine's remains, the Ultramarines retrieved the twisted wreckage of the Tempestus and set it down amid the ruins of Safehold, the planet that had been the World Engine's final victim. Since that day, Safehold's small garrison has known representatives from each of the chapters that fought at the Astral Knights' side. By this remembrance do the living pay their debt to the slain.